Back to the Blush and Rose. This is episode 1 of our brand new series called Is It Worth It? Here we're going to determine if the side hustle that is in question is actually worth your time or not. We're going to base these things off of, is it seasonal? What kind of pay do you get? The pros and cons? What are the entry requirements? And finally, is it worth it? So sit back, grab a notepad, and get ready to find you a good side hustle. Alright guys, I'm back. So here's how this series is going to go. We're going to choose our gig in the beginning and we're going to introduce it to you guys and find a special guest that works within that gig, either as a part-time or a full-time, worker of that thing. And then we're going to interview them, go out in the field with them, and then at the end of the video, give it a ranking or a rating of is it worth it or is it not worth it. So since this series is pretty much new, we're going to, in the later episodes, you'll get a better notion of what's worth it and what's not based on the point system that I've come up with. And I think you guys will really enjoy that. But for today's video, we are doing Instacarting. Instacart was founded back in June 2012. And it basically is an app where you sign up and you go shop other people's groceries for them and deliver it to them. It can be helpful for people who are sick, the elderly, the handicapped as well, and also people who just have that social anxiety and don't want to go out and shopping. It's a decent money maker in my opinion, but everything has its pros and its cons as well. All that's required is an ID. You need to be at least 18. You need to have a car, a reliable car, and a reliable phone. I know that's like, oh, everybody has a reliable car and a reliable phone, but you will be surprised. And also need to be able to lift about 50 pounds. And that's really not too bad of an intro requirement. I am going to give you the scores later on. A lot of the scores are denoted from 1 through 10. Some of them are like, I think 1 through 5 or whatnot, but the score total is 25. Your pros will give you bonus points and then your cons will take away points from you. And whatever out of 25 will determine if it's worthy or not. I think I'm gonna aim for, as long as it's above 50%, it'll be worth your time, but I wouldn't put all your efforts into it. So let's get into the interview and then I'll see you guys soon. For today's episode of Is It Worth It, we have our special guest. What's your name and gig you're doing today?
Katrina, and I will be Instacarting.
Instacarting. How long have you been doing Instacarting?
I signed up a year ago, so it's sporadic. Sometimes I'll go and sometimes I won't.
Okay. And what was it that made you sign up for this?
Word of mouth, really. Someone told someone else, and at that time they were making $20-$30 a haul. So per shopping thing, because you actually do grocery shopping for customers, so it was like really good pay.
Okay.
I like shopping. So.
Now, is it useful for the customers, do you think?
For the customer?
Yeah, do you think it provides a sense of usefulness?
Yeah, a lot of people, after COVID, during COVID, got used to being at home, and then you have some people that can't get out. So it's always a good thing to be able to help some kind of way, even if you're getting a little change for it. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and it doesn't have any schedule restraints or anything like that?
Now that I've found, when you say restraints, that's the only thing I would say. If you actually have a full-time job, maybe weekend carting would be something that you look into, but that's when it's usually when people need their stuff on the weekend or midweek. So unless you don't want to go right in the evening when it's all the traffic, but that's kind of when people want you to deliver their groceries. So not really. If you have free time, go for it.
Okay. You have any new tips for people starting to do Instacart if they watch this video and they determine that it is worth it?
I would say try it for yourself because everybody experience is a little bit different. People grab the carts based on certain things. For me, it would be how far I have to go after I pick up the groceries. If I leave my house and I have to come back to my house, that's a good trip, because I can probably come back home anyway. But if I have to leave and go, 20 miles away for $15, that may not be a good trip. But you have to judge that for yourself.
Okay. Any other tips as far as the shopping wise?
Shopping, I would say go ahead and look at your items before you go in the store because they give you like a little preview of the items. Publix will give you the aisle number, and if it's in the produce section, you can always ask. But for the most part, some of the stuff may not be something you shop for. Pretty much we kind of know stores because we shop at a lot of different stores. So if you don't know something, ask somebody. People are always willing to give you a helping hand. I wouldn't suggest you get a multiple order on your first go out because it's already going to be new to you. So a multiple order would be if you're shopping for 2 or more people and you have to deliver that to 2 different houses, 2 different places. So that's 2 different grocery orders, 2 different places you have to go. You have to keep track of that. So I wouldn't advise that for a newcomer.
Okay. And I'm actually, I got one more question for you. Plug in your social media handles. That way people know where to follow you at.
At 1 rose petals, 1 underscore rose petals.
1 underscore rose petals. Yeah. Okay. Now Instacart sounds like a decent gig. Do you mind taking me along?
No, I don't mind. As long as you don't mind being patient, because like I said, sometimes it can be a little tedious. So if you got your patience, let's go.
All right, let's go.
All right, guys.
So what you about to go get ready to do?
I'm gonna have an Instacart order.
So I see you got 2 carts. What is that for?
I have 2 orders, so I'm gonna put whichever the biggest order is one, and then the other order and the other one are separated.
Okay. Tells you to group it by customer.
Tell you to group it to make it easier because you're gonna drop it off per household. So.
Okay. I can't film in the store.
No, sir. No,
Okay.
sir. Unfortunately not. I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Thank y'all.
items for Publix. Not a whole lot of items for 2 people, but it was a little difficult because some of the items weren't there. The store was bare at 8 a.m. A lot of the sale items were out and the customer was shopping the sale. So it took a little over an hour and a half. It'd be like 1:45. Probably even including the drive time. So that's a little much for this morning because, I mean, you want to get in there early and get the stuff, but then they didn't have any stuff. So it was a little frustrating. And hopefully the customers were satisfied. I did have one lady responding. So, you know, if they didn't have something, you know, she would ask if they had an alternative. Even if they didn't show the alternative on the screen, I could still go back and get it. So that was a plus. Communication is always really good especially when the customer's talking back. You know, overall it was a decent experience. Hour and a half, a little bit over an hour and a half worth of work. The batch was $18. And then the quantity of items were, you know, small quantities. Just like I said, I had trouble finding the items because they weren't there. So I would say give it a try. I mean, I do enjoy shopping, whether it's for me or for somebody else, and you can always pick up your own groceries while you're there. So that's a plus too, guys. Thanks for having me and highlighting one of the many things that I do. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Bro, you have a good day.
Thanks, you too.
Finally made it to the ratings. On my first Instacart, on my Instacart trip, we did a 2-batch order that ended up for, I think, about $18. And it took us about maybe an hour and a half. Now, we did one the day before, and it took us the same amount of time, but that one was a $45 batch. And the rating as well, that's going to be a major factor on what we incorporate for this side hustle. But let's get into it. So for the intro requirements, I gave it a 7 with the scale being from 1 to 10, 1 being a high intro requirement, which you wouldn't want to be in there, and 10 being pretty low. So I did a 7. And the reason why I said a 7 was because of the 2 major factors, the cart and the phone. I believe, I looked it up the other day, and about 92% of Americans have some sort of smartphone. But as far as the car, a reliable car that you can drive back and forth to these stores and to other people's houses, and gas is a factor too, that could be a big issue. We're going to go into the startup cost. I gave that $1 side, which means it's pretty low. The only thing you really need is gas money. Gas money in a hot or cold pack to keep the cold items in as well. That could, maybe that's about, I don't know, gas is out the roof nowadays. That's like $5 a gallon. So for me, gas is $60 for me. That cold pack could be like 12. So that's only like that's a one-time buy, that cold pack. So I think about $70. So I'm gonna change that. I'm gonna change that to moderate, especially during the times. But it's not gonna affect the score too much. It's just gonna let you guys know what's going on. So it gets $2 signs for a moderate amount of startup costs. The pros, I only have 2 pros. The 2 pros is it's quick money. You can cash it out the first day that you get it. So say you go do $100 batch, which they do have $100 batches. You can get that $100 batch right after you're done. You get that $100, go get you some shoes or whatever you want to do with them. And the other one is it's convenient. You can go whenever you want. You can get that money whenever you want. And pretty much it's on your schedule. So that adds 2 bonus points to that as well. Now let's get into the cons. That's where things get a little bit tricky because we got 4 cons taking away 4 points. And one of them is what I spoke about earlier with the sporadic pay. So you're not gonna always get those high level batches because you are working for tips as well. So $18, $15 is about an average batch cost. Everything else is kind of rare, and it depends on your shopper score as well. That's something that we didn't even get into because it's so weird and we don't know about it. Another con is it's super competitive. they bring it out. They pop the batches up to all the shoppers in the area, and that way, say it's 10 of us in a room, all 10 of us are going to get that same batch at the same time, and whoever swipes fastest is who gets to shop it. Now, I think they could do that system a little better, because a lot of the time those people with the higher ratings do see it first, and that's how they always get the higher batches, and everybody else gets the leftovers. The third con is the gas prices are through the roof, right? So you're not going to want to do too many deliveries, especially if you're going to average about $18, $20. You're going to have to do about 3 or 4 just to get your gas money back, and at the end of the day, you only profited about $10. So if that's a problem of yours, that's a super big con, especially for me. That stops me on most days. Like if my gas tank is low, I may not do it. Our special guest, the same thing for her. If her gas tank is low, she's not going to do it either. And the last one is it does involve heavy lifting. So if you have some type of disability, this may not be for you completely, because they do order water packs and ice. Ice is with water, ice, and dog food, coal and charcoal and all that type of stuff. So stuff you do have to tote to other people's houses and things of that nature. So they do ask for you to be able to comply with that and be able to lift that amount of weight. So for the cons, they get a -4 on that score. Now let's get into the usefulness rating. On a scale of 1 to 10, I gave it a 6. So it's somewhat useful, because we do have your group of people that cannot go to the store, and those include those with disabilities, social anxieties, sick, the elderly as well, sometimes young, honestly. But if you cannot go to the store, all you have to do is order Instacart. They do take EBT, and like Publix does as well. You can go to Publix and order your food from EBT and get all of your groceries delivered to you. You can tip the person if you want to, and things of that nature. It's kind of useful for the shopper as well. That's where it gets the lower score at too, because you can get your money, but it's not gonna be as much. So that's why I got a 6 out of 10. So another category that I put in there was, is it seasonal or not? And I put that in there because for a side hustle, especially a good one, you pretty much want it to be year round unless you're super busy and you got plenty of side hustles. And Instacart is not seasonal, therefore I give it a +5 in that category. And that's based off, it's either you get 5 points or you don't get 5 points. Because if it's not, then you have to wait to the summertime, or you have to wait to the fall just to get your money. And we don't like that. We want something that's going to be year round, that's going to be steady for you, and it just depends on how much work you put into it as well. Another section is it long term or is it short term? Instacart is a short term thing. You want it to get your money and get out. You don't have to invest much into it. You may get addicted to it at first because you're gonna have a couple $100 days, and I ain't gonna say 2 or 3 hours. I say about 4 hours. You'll get you a couple $100 days, and that's something that you can go certain jobs, certain base level jobs you can go to, and you won't get until the end of the day. So that's what that allure is about. But if it's something long term, I wouldn't rely upon them for that, because they do change their rates, and sometimes it's not in the favor of the shopper at all. You can be paid daily. That's a plus. That's seriously a plus on it, because you can get your money as soon as you're done, or you can wait weekly. I think they only take out 50 cents or so if you get it the day. So all in all, the big question that we're wanting and have been waiting to know is Instacart worth doing as a side hustle? I'm going to say yes, with the complications because of its score. Instacart, a 16 out of 25 score, which is basically 64%. And 64% in school is a D, honestly, but it's passing, so that's okay, but it's not the best. That's not something you want to have. And this is why Instacart is very sporadic with their pay. You can get in and get out, but I wouldn't make it something that's reliable, because they do change their rates and tend to not favor the shopper a lot of times. And that's something you don't want to be consistent on and rely upon to get some money. Now, I say with complications because there are some factors. There are factors if you want to be an Instacart shopper that I completely agree with you with. So if you already have a job, you can do Instacart on the weekends, get you a few extra money. Cool. If you already have something else, you got some free time, go do it or whatnot. And if you just need a couple dollars for the day, go do it. But if you're trying to rely on Instagram full time, Instacart, if you're trying to rely on Instacart full time, I wouldn't recommend it, not at all, just because of how the pay was, like I said earlier. And just based off my ranking system, which is a 64%, that's probably going to be on the lower tier, which basically means a decent side hustle. Is it worth it? Yes, with complications. And that's basically the gist of everything we've got from today. I know you guys seen in the video that we had some struggles. I know I put the music over or whatnot, but we had certain struggles in certain areas because also the stores may not have certain items, which will take you longer to pick those items. They may not have it. The customer may not be replying, and the customers on Instacart are great 90% of the time. You're gonna run into that one person like you always will, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I do think there are a lot better side hustles out there, but this isn't a bad one to get started on. Granted, you get accepted to it. So guys, if there are any Instacarters out there that doesn't like what I said, or was like, oh no, you're spot on, comment down below what you said, and maybe later on in the video I'll go back and re-rank the system as I get better with this. If you like the video, make sure you leave a like and subscribe. And y'all have a blessed day, and stay tuned for the next video. We got a great one coming up for you guys. Peace.